peer group? Liza Wiryawan? Oh my God. Oh, okay. You have late breakfast. Okay, fair enough. Liza, did you have chance to have this discussion with your peer group?
Well, actually, I took the non-certificate SIM, so I haven't.
Oh, that's all right. Okay. How about you, Muhammad Matni? You did the certificate scheme, right, Matni?
Yes, came, madam.
All right. How about your peer group? Do you have contact connected with your peer group?
Madam, in fact, we have started discussion and we are working. We will have discussion tonight.
All right. Live discussion?
Yes.
Oh, wow. Okay, that's all right. Then you will know each other, right? That will be good.
We have a good working relationship with each other.
Ah, okay. Don't forget the for the photo, your deadline will be in the next 2 days.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah. Right. Great.
Thank you.
What time is it now in you are in Pakistan, yeah, if I'm not wrong? Pakistan or Bangladesh?
And it's 10:28 a.m.
Oh, 10:28 p.m. a.m. right? Oh, okay, still morning, yeah. All right.
Yeah.
I'm in Sydney. Now is 4:29, yeah, almost 4:30 p.m.
Yes, 2 hours ago.
Oh, sorry?
I say you are 2 hours ago from Pakistan.
Yeah. From you, so it's about 6 hours from Pakistan, yeah. And from Indonesia, about 4 hours. Yeah. All right. Oh, bad connection for you, Omar Parpati. Bad connection. Ah, sorry to hear that. And Adelia Miranda, how are you?
I'm great, ma'am. Thank you so much. How are you?
All right. So hot. It's heat wave today in Australia. So yeah.
Yeah, you said 40 degrees?
Yeah. 39 to 40 degrees today. And also tomorrow. So this is bad weekend. We can't go anywhere outside the house in this heat wave. Yeah, so just yeah, stay at home and then accompany you guys, yeah. Okay, we still wait for Pak Dedi Mahardika. Pak Dedinya belum masuk ya, Mas Arif ya?
Sudah, Bu, dari tadi.
Oh, sorry, Pak Dedi. You're already here. Sorry, I didn't see you.
Hello, Bu. No worries.
Hello.
Just looking around.
Okay.
Hello. Let me. Where's my camera?
Sorry. So shall we start, Pak Dedi?
Sure. Please go ahead.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Okay, class. So the last whole 1 week, we just have senior academics, professors such as Professor Herman Weibel, Professor Nur Sidaman, Professor Ahmad Fauzi, Professor Samsul Huda, Professor Artul Mol, Professor Emil Salim. Yeah, this weekend I want to join you to cheer you with the young researchers. Okay, today young researchers, we have 2 young researchers from World Resource Institute Indonesia. Yeah, the first lecture today will be delivered by Mr. Dedi Mahardika. Mr. Dedi Mardika is a researcher with the Climate Program for World Resource Institute, an Indonesian-based environmental research organization. He leads the research in the field of the transparency and climate actions from non-state actors. He earned his Master of Science in Environment and Energy Engineering from Kyungpook National University, South Korea. Dedi Mardika joined WRI Indonesia in 2017 as young researcher of Wahana Research Indonesia. And his current focus is the data and ambition loops and how it would help increase national climate ambition. Beyond that, Pak Dedi is now leading the project that will assess the opportunity and challenges of the science-based target implementation in the Southeast Asia region as a corporate strategy to align their emission reduction targets with the Paris Agreement. All right, Pak Dedi, time and place is yours.
Sure, thank you, Bu Melanie. I guess you will be sharing my presentation.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Is that okay?
Oh, okay. Mas Arief, bisa tolong di share screen untuk presentasinya Pak Dedi?
Thank you.
Mas Arief, ya. Alright.
Okay, thank you again for having me today. Thank you, Ibu Melanie, and I see a lot of young researchers and also young generations that are interested in the climate change and environment in general here. So really happy to be here. Hopefully we can have a full discussion. As Ibu Melanie mentioned, I am working with the WRI Indonesia. WRI is an environmental think tank in Indonesia. It is based in the Washington, D.C., but we have also several offices in Indonesia, including the regional offices also in some of the provinces in Indonesia. So today I will share with you guys about some of the work that we are doing in the Science-Based Targets Initiative, which is to help the company to set the corporate greenhouse gas emission reduction targets. I believe you already familiar with some of the Paris Agreement, how the climate change right now is really critical here. Maybe you already also have some of the courses related with the negotiation of the climate change. For today's session, I will focus more on how actually the corporate climate action or private sector, especially non-state actors, could also elaborate more of the Paris Agreement targets here. If you move on to the next slide. Yeah, so this is the agenda. Yeah, this is the agenda for today's discussion. I will have a background specifically about the overall, what is actually the science-based target, the overall climate science, and what is actually needed for us to be contributed here. And I will go through the criteria and methodologies of the SBTs. This will be pretty critical and also pretty technical. So hopefully, as Bu Melanie mentioned, you will already have a lunch, or else maybe you'll have to have a bandwidth for digesting this. And building on that one, we'll go to the third one, which is leveraging SBTs as the corporate strategies. And I will close up with the key takeaways here. But if you have any question in the middle of my presentation, just put it in the chat box, or we can also have a Q&A in the middle of the session here. So next slide, please. Yeah, so this is just the overall idea of the background of the Paris Agreement here. So apologize, I think there are some error in the files that I sent, but I can really send you the better version of the PDF files here. So as you may already know, that the Paris Agreement is the coalition or the agreement between the national governments around the world that set to limit the global warming to well below 2 degrees Celsius and to pursue the efforts to limit the temperature to 1.5 degrees Celsius here. You may see that the Paris Agreement is a commitment. Almost 200 countries already ratified the Paris Agreement. And if you may see the right-hand side of the graph, you may see that there are the report from the Climate Action Tracker, which is about the emission gaps in the 2030. You may see that the emission gap from the 2030, there are several different scenarios here. So if you see the blue one, the current policies and pledges and targets, you may see that the targets that are being submitted by the countries towards the Paris Agreement is not enough for us to limit the global temperature to 1.5 to 2 degrees Celsius here. There is still a big gap here, if you may see the yellow and the green one, for us to limit the global warming to 2 degrees Celsius and also 1.5, which means that although us as a national government already have a emission reduction targets and also some of the key alignment to the policies, even that is being reached by 2030, it will not be enough for us to limit the global temperature, which of course you may already learn in another lecture. There will be some climate risks that are that will affect the overall agenda here. So what actually the emission gap report here is that we need to have an additional actions, not only by the national governments, that of course they are the one who very responsible for the overall climate action, but we need also an additional action from the private sector here. You may already familiar that the private sector accounts for most of the emissions in the world. Some of the biggest emitter in the world is from the highest emitting private sectors here, such as especially in the energy consumption and so on and so forth here. So again, this emission gaps report in 2030 emphasizes the importance of us to also take part in the emission reduction process, and not only to to let the national government to take the all climate actions here. Okay, next slide, please, Mas. So the next slide will explain a bit about the idea of the science-based target.
Mas Arif?
Yeah,
Mas
so
Arif?
this is just the recap of the climate science here. This is like the very simple idea of the carbon budget here. So of course, if you talk about budget, you talk about money, it's about how much money you may spend to to get some activities that you want to get here. But in terms of the climate science, usually we use also some budget called carbon budget here. So you may see that the carbon budget is being similarly to some of the buckets here available. That there are the overall bucket are the overall carbon budget that can be consumed by all of the people around the world to keep the limiting the global warming to 1.5 to 2 degrees Celsius here. So here you may see that from the pre-industrial area to right now, we have already consumed so many activities related to the emissions that will translate it into the high concentrated of atmospheric CO2 here. If you see the bucket here, the historic cumulative emission is already have way more than the remaining carbon budget. The remaining carbon budget, which means that the emission that we still can emit to the atmosphere to limit the global warming temperature is very limited here. So you may see that in the graph in the left-hand side, there are we need to accommodate that one, the remaining carbon budget, until 2100, which is the at the end of the century here, to really still keep the global warming temperature here. So the idea right now is we cannot emit any more and more, and we need to really start reducing from the our own activities here. Okay, next slide, please, Mas. So the next slide, which is about the idea of the need of the science-based targets here. As you may see, maybe you may familiar with some of the corporate climate reduction targets here. So traditionally, if you may see the left-hand corner points, the traditional reduction targets is translated more into what companies can achieve here. So the companies, for example, have their own activities that are translated into the emission reduction, and they reported that one as one of their strategies. But of course, if companies only reporting what they could achieve, it's not ambitious yet, and it will not be in line with the climate science to limit the global warming to 1.5 degrees Celsius here. Therefore, we need a more robust methodologies and also more robust approach to translate those traditional targets towards the science-based targets here. So you may see from the right-hand side that there are 3 important points: the need of the science-based target, aside from the traditional reduction target that are not ambitious enough. The first one is, of course, the transition to a low carbon economy underway and accelerating globally here, which means that the transition to a low carbon economy right now, such as in Indonesia and Singapore, there are some bill about the carbon pricing that also that will also need some of the robust data from the companies here. So again, the transition to a low carbon economy is inevitable at this point, and therefore the company needs to be ready to transition to the low carbon economy. And the second one is the every sector in every market will be transformed. This also is related with the first point, that the sector, whether it's a small sector or the big sector, will be transformed, especially if you know that the energy demand is keep increasing, but the non-renewable energy will be also limited in the future. So to transition your business towards a more low carbon technology will be critical here. And the third one will be the leadership process here. You may see that the businesses, the leading businesses, recognize more and more the opportunity and imperative to be part of the solution here. So although the leading businesses usually are the one who emit the most of the emissions, they are right now also realizing the importance of having the emission reductions from the overall business here. So you may see that from the news, there are some companies who already committed to net zero, such as we have Facebook, we have also Microsoft, who are already having the thought of being into net zero by 2050 is beneficial also for your overall business. But again, the idea of the science-based targets needs to be translated here, because we need to have at what scale and pace should the companies aim to decarbonize the overall business here. So next slide, please, which is the next slide. We will go through the idea of the science-based targets. So what is actually science-based targets here is, so science-based target translated into this specific criteria that how much and how quickly companies need to reduce its greenhouse gas emission in line with the Paris Agreement goals to limit the global warming to those 2 different temperatures, well below 2 degrees Celsius, which is translated into 1.75 degrees Celsius or 1.5 degrees Celsius here. So the science-based target will provide the clear pathways for companies to build their overall strategy here. The first one will be the future-proof growth and align plans with the keeping warming, and also put them ahead of the game, because of course the science-based target is a leadership platform. Usually the one that involved in the science-based target will be the one who also innovate more into their technology, and therefore it will put them in ahead of the game with the other peers here. Okay, next slide, please. So here, after the idea of the science-based target, we established something called the Science-Based Targets Initiatives here. So Science-Based Targets Initiative is an initiative from our organization, WR Indonesia, collaborated with 3 other NGOs and also organizations. We have collaborated with CDP, or formerly known as the Carbon Disclosure Project, who is an environmental disclosure platform. We have also collaborated with the UN Global Compact, one of the biggest organization of the business coalition, and also the WWF, which is the biggest NGOs in the world, in collaboration with the women business. The idea of the science-based target is to promote the idea of science-based target initiative is to promote the idea of science-based target to the companies here, which mobilizes company to set the science-based targets in the transition to the low carbon economy. And we established the science-based target in 2015, in the same year as the Paris Agreement. So we are celebrating our 5th anniversary this year. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, yeah, this slide. So based on the idea of the science-based targets, we developed the overall overview what is actually the science-based targets in terms of the science-based target means here. So the general idea of the science-based target, of course, is to reach the net zero by 2050, which is the long-term goal here, right? So right now we're at the end of the 2020, which means that we still have 30 more years to decarbonize by 2050. But the idea of science-based target is to also provide some interim target, which is providing some short and medium term here that are in the time frame of 5 to 15 years to provide the short-term action, and drive enables the accountability here. So in terms of the definition, you may see from the from the above slide that the science-based target is a greenhouse gas emission reduction target that are consistent with the level of decarbonization according to the climate science here. So you may see also in the picture that the science-based targets are 5 to 15 years. Therefore, we may have more than one science-based targets to move towards the long-term goal, which is to have a net zero by 2050. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so the next one is the initiatives here. So we know what is actually the definition of the science-based target, and what is actually the next step is to know what we do in terms of the science-based targets initiative here. The first one is to build the technical foundations here. I explained a bit about the Paris Agreement, and also there are some other reports that might be quite critical for us to know about the keeping the global warming to 1.5 to 2 degrees. But that is actually the high level commitments, and it's not really well translated into the companies here. So the companies still some have a gap of the knowledge. How do we translate the Paris Agreement, the climate science of the IPCC to the business side of them here? So here the Science-Based Target Initiative built the technical foundations for the companies to align their targets with the Paris Agreement here by having the second strategies, which is to scale up the adoption here, which is building a critical mass of high impacted companies here. So we see a lot of the companies that already champions in the climate change, and we engage them with the Science-Based Target Initiative to align them with the business targets. And we see also the peer of those companies are also engaging with the Science-Based Target later. And the third one is the independent assessment here. So this is not the certification, or this is not a form of the, something like the scoring process, but this is just to provide the idea that this target that are being publicly committed by these company will be in line with the science-based targets here. So we provide also the independent assessment in the form of the validation process. And of course, the institutionalization, which means that we spread the idea and mainstreaming the idea of the climate actions to be one of the key business practices that hopefully also will be one of the key strategies that is considered by the companies when they are developing their business cases. Okay, next slide, please. Yeah, so this is the achievement of our initiatives here. So since official launch in June 2050 up until yesterday, I updated every day because we usually see different number every day. So up until yesterday, we have 1,061 companies. 1,061 companies who have formally committed to science-based targets, and around from those 1,061 companies, we have 517 companies with approved targets here. So in this case, the companies with approved targets are the one who officially launched in the science-based targets. And here, apologize for the error in the slides. We have already 325 companies who are committed to the science-based target, highest level of the ambition, which is 1.5 degrees Celsius here. So based on this one, we see a lot of critical mass that already happening in the science-based target, and what are the idea of science-based target already being mainstream here. We see a lot of company also embedded the science-based target idea as one of their official climate change strategies in the overall idea here. So you may see from the very first one and the second one, the increasing of the with the approved target, which is not only the 1.5 targets are being increases by day by day.
And Mas Dedi, Maaf, sorry, this is national target or international target?
This is the company-wide target. So this is not really
Worldwide.
a national
So
target.
worldwide target.
Yes, so worldwide target. So it really depends on the company headquarters. If it is like the headquarters in the one national companies, that will cover the specific company in that region also. But we see a lot of the companies who have also that have the business with more than countries, like which is most of the big company. So this also covers all of the headquarters company and also some of the children of this company in that different region here. So it's being publicly committed as one name of the companies. For example, if you have let's say Danone, we have Danone in Indonesia and Danone headquarters. So Danone overall target will be submitted as Danone as a one. So it's not really related with the companies here. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so I'll take a questions here before we move on to another, the second part. I see in the chat box, your articulation are a little bit mixed up. I can catch up. Oh, okay, I will slow down a little bit. Okay, yeah, okay, I will slow down a bit. So far, there are not yet any questions. Or if you have any questions, just raise your hand and we can take maybe one or two questions. Okay, if not, we can move on to the next one. So this is a bit critical about the science-based targets and the idea of the how we develop the science-based targets initiatives. So we do a lot of the background activities in the previous slides and how we actually differentiate the climate actions between the private sector and also the national government. The next step is how actually we translate the commitments from the private sector to the methodologies here. So this one will talk about the criteria and methodologies of SBTs here. So next slide, please, Mas. Okay, so the first thing that the companies and also the organization need to do when they commit to the science-based target initiative is to count their own emissions here. So some of the companies in the journey, usually they already have their own activities related with the emissions, such as when you have a the energy intensive, you consume a lot of energy. And also you, in case of the business, maybe you have a business that consume a lot of, raw materials that consume a lot of energies here. So here, one of the methodologies that are being recommended by Science-Based Target for you to count your emission is the greenhouse gas protocol here. First thing first, the activities that identified by the companies needs to be classified into 3 different scopes here. So we have scope 1, scope 2, and scope 3. I believe most of you are also familiar with the different scopes here. The scope 1 is the direct emission, which means that it's the emission that you can control in the overall idea of the companies. So the scope 1 is, you may see that there are 2 types of the activities that will be included in the scope 1, which is the company facilities and also company vehicles. So if company have their own vehicles and also company facilities, such as the building are their, the ownership are their own company, it needs to be included in the scope 1 emissions here. Scope 1 emission is the easiest one to control because you have the opportunities to choose the alternative for your company or organization to decrease the emissions, right? Such as moving towards the more renewable energy purchases or, having a more energy efficient vehicles to be applied in your business here. So therefore, usually getting the calculation for the scope 1 is a lot easier. And we have scope 2 here, if you may see the red one, which is the indirect emissions from the purchased electricity, steam, heating, and cooling for own use here. So scope 2 is specifically why we put scope 2 as an indirect one as a different approach is because for example, in Indonesia, some of the scope 2 activities which is the purchase electricity, is being handled by one specific organizations here. So the scope 2 is mainly come from the activities related to the energy purchases, steam and heating and cooling for our own use here. And that is actually the scope 2 also not really easy to control, but it's easier to control rather than the scope 3 here, because you have the control to count your emission from the purchased electricity. For example, you may choose the overall the matters of the purchase of the electricity, heat and steam, and you may translate that one into the overall emission data here. So it will be pretty much not really direct emission, but you may still control the emissions from the scope 2 here. And the one thing that might be challenging, and usually the data for the emission is needed more robust one, is the scope 3 emissions here. We have scope 3 emissions, which is the indirect emissions here. We have two types also of the scope 3 emissions, from the upstream activities and also the downstream activities. You may see 15 different upstream activities, 15 different types of the scope 3 emissions here from the upstream and also downstream activities. Maybe one example that I could explain to you about the scope 3 activities is the business travel here. So for organizations, maybe you have a conference, you have a workshop towards the other cities or other countries that might use external transportation. That one is activities is being included in the scope 3 activities, which means that it's not your direct emission, but it's still your responsibility also to reduce that emission. Another thing that might be also included in the scope 3 activities is the investment here. So this is usually related with the bank or financial institution. So for bank to have their emission counted, they also need to disclose the idea of what is actually the project that they are invest. For example, so many banks in Indonesia, of course, investing in the overall fossil fuel project. That one also needs to be included in one of the greenhouse gas accounting here. Okay,
excuse me, Mr. Dedi, I just some inputs from the participants. Can you talk a bit slower? Because to them it's a bit too fast, so they can't really. Yeah. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I will try to be slower because there's just so many things I need to focus. Sorry. Yeah. For the next part, after you guys are already counting the emissions, the second one is to really know what is actually the requirement to set your science-based targets here. So if you may see, there are 5 different types of the requirements for the science-based targets in terms of the boundary, time frame, and also the progress to date, reporting, and also in terms of the scope 3 here. We already see from the previous slide that we count the emissions from the different scopes, right? Scope 1, which is the direct emissions, scope 2, which is the indirect emissions from the energy purchases, and also scope 3, which is the indirect emissions. So the first thing that needs to be covered is the boundary from all of the company's scope 1 and 2 greenhouse gas emissions. So in order to have the science-based target, the company need to already have the targets for all of the scope 1 and 2 emissions, which is basically, as I mentioned before, it's the easiest scope that you may account for, because scope 1 is direct. You have the control over that scope, and the scope 2 is the purchase of the electricity. So you may get the data from the energy purchaser in terms of Indonesia. Maybe you may get the data from the PLN here and translated that one into the emission. And the second one, you may see the time frame. Time frame for the science-based target is a short term, as I mentioned. So it's a 5 to 15 years targets, which means that it will be good if you are delivering the time frame to 2050. Of course, that's the overall goal. But in terms of the time frame, you need to have the 5 to 15 years into the future, which means that you will need to submit. For example, if you have the target submitted by 2020, you need to have the overall target by 2025. to 2035, which is 5 to 15 years into the future. And you need to update the target also in terms of the whether you want to have the target for 2 degrees or 1.5 degrees in the future here. And for the third one is about the progress to date. So here, in terms of the science-based target, we recognize that it is a forward-looking ambition. So you may not claim the target that already been achieved in the previous year. So for example, if you submit the target in 2020, and maybe you may have previous year's activities related to the emission reduction, maybe in 2018 or 2017, that activities in the previous year cannot be counted towards your emission reduction target, because we recognize the emission reduction target as a forward-looking ambition and looking more into the future here. So that will also count towards the overall idea. And the fourth one here is to about the reporting here. The reporting is important because of course, science-based target will be like a greenwashing platform only if you stop after disclosing your target here. But to have that accountability, the companies need to report their progress and disclose the greenhouse gas emission in inventory on an annual basis. So, for example, if you have a 5-year targets from 2020 to 2025, you need to report annually from 2021. 2022 until 2025, what is the progress of the achievement of the target so far? That also to really avoid any greenwashing and also any non-accountability here. Okay, and as I mentioned, scope 3 is the biggest challenge to really count the emissions. So for example, if we have a business travel, maybe that one will be easier. If we have maybe some purchase vehicles from maybe the outsourced company, that will also easier. But in terms of the other activities, it will be pretty much in the hands of the suppliers' activities. So it will be quite challenging to count the scope 3. Therefore, usually the companies are only required to have the scoping of the scope 3 activities. So you don't need to have to measure directly your own emission in scope 3, but you may use the average data for scope 3 analysis. And you are not required the emission to be counted in the science-based target unless the emission of the scope 3 is take part most of the your emission here, which is more than 40% of emission. So if the emission from the scope 3 is not bigger than the 40% of the total emission, you will not require to have a scope 3 analysis also. So these 5 are the basic criteria of the science-based targets. And if you go to the next slide, it will explain about the scope 1 and scope 3 analysis.
Mas Arif, punten. Next slide, Mas Arif. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, scope 1 and scope 2 targets is this is just to emphasizes that we have also the level of ambition the same. You may choose whether it's well below 2 degrees Celsius or 1.5 degrees Celsius. And in terms of the target, this is very technical, but you may choose between the absolute target or intensity target. Absolute target is like the linear target of the numbers. So you may choose to have a 5% reduction per year, such as, for example. But intensity targets are the emission target that is in line with your business. For example, if you are a company in the energy, you may have a target that are, gram carbon dioxide reduced per amount of the electricity produced, such as kilowatt hours. Something like that one also can be explained here. So there are different types of the target that can be submitted, whether it's an absolute or intensity. And because of the scope 2 emissions are, as I mentioned, it's about the purchase of the electricity. You may also have a renewable energy targets here. So the companies may use the renewable energy targets to have the scope 2 targets here. And we recognize that to achieve the science-based targets initiatives, you may have the renewable energy targets of 80% by 2025 and 100% by 2030. which is of course this, if I take this into Indonesia's condition right now, it's very, very, very ambitious one, because of course, we are not seeing the transition to renewable energy in the short-term targets, short-term, maybe 2025 or 2030 here. Therefore, usually the uptake of the science-based target in Indonesia is still very low because of one of that demands also. Yeah. Okay, and this is just a brief summary of the overview. We can really share you the overall. It is about 80 pages, so yeah, it's very long document here. And okay, next slide, please. Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so for the scope 3 targets, as I mentioned, scope 3 is one of the challenging scope to be measured. So it is not mandatory to measure your scope 3 targets and to have the targets here. So this just emphasizes that the overall scope 3 target will be more flexible, and it will also, including some of the other types of the achievement here. For example, aside from the reducing the emissions from your own supply chain, you may also have the target for the supplier or customer engagement targets here. So because the scope 3 emissions usually is coming from the suppliers and also from the other parts of your business, the SBT initiative also recognized the supplier or customer engagement targets as one of the strategies to reduce the emission from the scope 3 here. In terms of the boundary, that one also still the same, timeline also the same with the scope 1 and scope 2. But here, I just want to emphasize is that the scope 3 targets will be much more flexible than the scope 1 and 2 emissions. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, this is the target setting process after you already counting the emissions from your scope 1, scope 2, and scope 3. This is the 3 steps that needs to be established when you are considering to set the science-based target. The first one is to choose the emission scenarios here. This is actually, we have the tools to try for the different scenarios here. But this scenarios is either from the IEA, which is the International Energy Agency, which is well below 2 degrees Celsius, which is in this case is related with the temperature of 1.75, and IPCC, which is the one that publishing the report about a special report on 1.5 degrees Celsius here. So according to those scenarios, you may choose whether the companies want to pursue the emissions in well below 2 degrees Celsius or the 1.5 degrees Celsius here. You may see the in the graph also that there are different routes, which is the blue one is the well below 2 degrees Celsius, and the red one is the more ambitious one, which is the 1.5 degrees Celsius. And as I mentioned in the previous slide, you may see the different types of the second steps here, whether it's an absolute contraction or intensity convergence here. The absolute contraction is that you'll have a linear reduction per year. For example, as I mentioned, maybe 5% per year, or you may have an intensity convergence based on the product that you produce, such as, to reduce the 5 grams carbon dioxide per kilowatt hours produced. That is also, you may choose also to whether to have the absolute base approach or the sector-based approach here. And the third step is to compare against the baseline and how many emissions that you need to reduce here. This is really depends on the baseline because, of course, the target is to get the net zero by 2050. So in terms of that one is to reach the net zero by 2050, how many emissions need to reduce is based on the different types of the scenarios here. So this is the 5 questions that you may address before delivering your science-based target. So the first one is the first 2 are about the baseline. So what is actually the initial conditions in the today's discussion, and the hotspots, which is the red line, the third line. You may see the where in my value chain are the emission hotspots, is basically identifying what are activities from the overall emissions that are, emitting the highest types of the emissions here. You may see from the energy usage, or maybe from the business travel, or maybe from the raw materials that you are producing. And across which sectors do my activity spread? You may see the fourth layer there, the yellow one. That is also going back to Ibu Melanie question about whether your company also operating in the different countries here. So for example, you may have one plant in Indonesia, and you may have 2 other plants in other countries, maybe Singapore or Thailand. That also need to be included in the overall targets, because the science-based target need to be established as a company-wide target. And the last one is how much will my business grow here. So this is just to emphasize that reducing your emission doesn't mean that you need to not grow your business here, right? So the idea of science-based target is to keep the economy going while reducing your emissions by transitioning to the more low carbon technologies here. So the strategy is not to really, divest your business or smalling your business in order to have a low emissions here. So you need to still grow the business, but with a more, effective transition towards the low carbon technology. Okay, the next one, next slide, please. Which is about the target setting. I think I will not go deep into this one because I think today's session will be pretty limited, but when I share the documents, you may go through different types of the methodologies here. So based on the picture, maybe you may already since develop the absolute approach. If it is an absolute approach, you may see that the graph is almost similar to each other, right? So the red one, the blue one, the yellow one, and the the black one is having the emission reduction in the same pace here, right? Which is a linear reduction by the company A, B, C, and D. That is an absolute base approach here. But it will be different in the convergence type of the approach here. You may see that the convergence is a sector-based approach, which means that the specific sector has their own target to be achieved by 2050 here. You may see that the sector target is the one that is in the line, the black line here. So in terms of the different types of the companies, they have different starting point, right? They have different types of the baseline. Therefore, to have the convergence activities, they need to reduce in the different types of the targets here. Maybe if you see the company A have the highest baseline, so they need to reduce more here. Sorry, that's big noises. So you need to reduce more in order to have the net zero by 2050. But if the starting point is already low, like you may see the company C, it's already lower than the sectoral baseline. So the company C needs to reduce less to have the emission reduction by 2050. So again, these 2 different types of the scenarios may be applied in the different types of the business. But again, of course, if you want to have a really robust methodology, you need to tailor this one with the sector-based approach that is viable for your business here. Okay, the next one, please. The next slide. Okay, this is, I will just skip this one. This is just the explanation before this one. Next slide, please. Which is about convergence also. So I would like to mention that right now the sector-based approach is available for the following sectors here. So we have the power generations. So for example, for the companies who mainly produce the power and also energy, you may use also some sectoral specific approach. And also materials. Of course, the materials is one of the highest emitting sector in terms of the emissions, such as the cement industries, aluminum, pulp and paper, and also iron steel. We have also specific sectoral based approach for that materials. For the transport and also service for the commercial buildings also available here. You may see also in the bottom of the presentation, there are required data, which is the base emission year, base activities, and also projected target year activities. So this is basically just emphasizing the previous point about how you can choose the different type of the methodologies here. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, this is just to share you guys about the available tools that you may choose. Maybe you may use this one also as a methodologist for you to understand more about the science-based targets. So you may go to the website of the science-based targets, and there are tools that you may download freely here. This is an Excel tools that you may try also in order to have an idea what is actually the science-based targets here. Okay, so you may see that the section 1 is about the input data. This is the input data for the scope 1 and scope 2 target modeling. So you may choose different types of the approach here, as I mentioned, whether it's a sectoral decarbonization approach or the absolute contraction approach here. And after that one, you may choose the base year, the drop down, and also the target year. So based on that one, you will have some of the idea what is actually how many emissions you need to reduce by 2050 in terms of the input data here. And for the section 1 input data also will include different types of the methodologies here. So there are 3 methodologies available, as I mentioned, the absolute contraction approach, the economic intensity, and also the physical intensity here. So again, this is the tools that is meant to be the very first steps for companies to considering the science-based targets. So in this case, it's also interesting if you interested and want to know more about the science-based target, you may go straight into the science-based target setting tools here. Okay, next slide. I think I will stop here first before taking any questions, if any.
Is there any question, guys? Not yet? Okay, maybe you just can move on, Pak Dedi.
Yeah, I have a few slides left before we move on, but we have already talked about the background, which is the importance of getting the science-based target for the companies. And the second one is how the criteria for the science-based targets here. And the third one is how actually the science-based target can be embedded as one of the strategies for the corporate emission reduction here. Okay, so next slide, please. Okay, so building upon what I said about the science-based target tools, here is one of the overview of the SBTI's resources here. So we have already different types of the resources. We have a tools that I shared previously. We have also a target validation protocol. That one is to really assess what is actually the target that are being submitted for the companies, whether the target will be in line or not with some of the emission reduction targets. And the blue one, the red one, and the yellow one is the paper that explain a bit about the idea of the science-based target. So the first blue one is about the foundation of target-based setting, which is the one that I have an overview previously. What is the importance of the science-based targets? What is actually the process for you to undergo the science-based targets? And the second one is more about the methodologies that I previously also mentioned. And the third one is the criteria and recommendations here. You may explore this one in the science-based target website if you want to know more and go deep dive. There are some other webinar recorded with the some of the general resources also if you want to go to that one. And we are also developing right now the sector-specific resources, which is related with the different types of the activities in the different types of the sector here. So you may see that the one that already available are transport, apparel and footwear. You may see the example here is already available, the guidance, and also the financial institutions. As I mentioned, the financial institutions will play a key role in the emission reduction targets by investing in more companies and also overall activities that are low carbon technologies. So we have also developing the SBTi specifically for bank and also financial institutions. And we have also developing the chemicals and petrochemicals. And the one thing that may be interesting is the net zero emissions also, because I think some of the recent commitment from the companies, such as one thing that I mentioned, Facebook and also Microsoft, they are committing to have the net zero by 2050. And we want to translate that commitment, whether it's always the devils is always in the details. So we want to assess whether their commitment is also in line with the net zero by 2050. Therefore, we're developing several of the resources here. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, so this is just to give you an overview how the companies could join the Science-Based Targets campaign here. So there are 4 steps for companies to include and join their overall Science-Based Targets. The first one is the commitment. So the company will need to sign a commitment letter that is in line with the name of the companies, what is the size of the companies, and also they publicly announced that they will commit to the science-based target here. And the second one is develop. This is usually the longest time for the development, for the overall process is to develop the targets, of course, because we need to follow through the process that I already mentioned from the very beginning to end. So this is usually the development process takes a lot of time, because you need also considering some of the business strategy, which whether you are maybe will have a different types of business included, whether you have also different strategies in terms of the activities related to the environment, social and governance. So this will also depends on the company's overall business. And after the developing process, the company will need to submit the targets to the Science-Based Target Initiative. And our team in the Science-Based Target Initiative will also in this case is getting the verification for the companies here. So our team in Science-Based Target Initiative will verify the document submitted by the companies, whether it is in line with the scenarios that I mentioned, 1.5 or 2 degrees Celsius, and whether maybe some of the targets need to be more ambitious here. And then after the target being submitted and it is being approved, the companies can announce that their targets, and it will be also publicly available in the Science-Based Targets Initiative website. So if you go to the Science-Based Target Initiative website, you may also see some of the list of the companies that are already committed to the Science-Based Targets Initiative. And unfortunately, or fortunately, for the companies in Indonesia, right now we are only having 2 companies in Indonesia. So it's a way, less than the total companies in Indonesia. And in terms of the Southeast Asia also, we have really small number right now. We have only 14 companies in the Southeast Asia that covers the companies from Indonesia, Singapore, Thailand, Malaysia, Cambodia, and also Vietnam. So it's still a wild playing field here in the Southeast Asia in terms of the Science-Based Targets Initiative. Again, so the campaign that we do is that we want to also keep, mentioning science-based target and also disseminating this to the companies and to consider them towards the business strategies for the science-based targets here. Okay, next slide. Next slide, please. So this is the campaign that are being held by the Science-Based Target Initiative along with the UN Global Compact. UN Global Compact is the UN office for the corporate affairs and also women business here. So the idea is that for the business to go to more ambitious targets here. We have science-based targets who are right now currently accepting not only the 1.5 degrees target, but also the well below 2 degrees Celsius target, which is still ambitious enough to be in line with the Paris Agreement. But the campaign is also to include some of the findings from the companies who are more ambitious one. So we also mobilize this campaign for the companies, for the leading companies to consider setting their science-based target for more ambitious 1.5 degrees Celsius here. If you go to the next slide, there will be a number of the companies who are joining. Here is the difference of with the science-based target and business ambition for 1.5 is that there are two options for companies to join. So as I mentioned, they need to follow the first step to join the science-based targets. And through the pledge, the companies commit to align 1.5 degrees Celsius within 24 months. Why 24 months? Because as I mentioned, the second step is to develop the target. Usually that will be the most challenging one. You need to really have a robust data. So in this case, the company will have a 24 months through the following options. Whether you need to have the science-based targets that are in line, or to have a net zero commitments by 2050 here. By this one, the companies will be achieving the campaign for the business ambition for 1.5 degrees Celsius here.
Excuse me, Pak Dedi.
Yeah.
Baik raise hand wants to ask some question.
Okay.
Baik.
Please. Yeah.
Are you here, Baik? Okay. Accidentally posted. All right.
Okay.
Okay. Maybe Jacqueline has this question, and I also have a similar question with Jacqueline here. As we know that developing countries not required to reduce emission, right, Pak Nanda? Pak Dedi, if I'm not wrong, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The Kyoto
Yes,
Protocol
yes.
doesn't require us as developing country to reduce emission, right? So if the company is just based in Indonesia or based in Malaysia or a Philippines in developing country, and it is not a multinational company, so it is not obligation, yeah. So it's a voluntary
It's
initiative.
a voluntary. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
All right.
that is actually the challenge that we always have when talking about science-based target with the developing countries, with the Southeast Asian countries here, because usually the drivers for the companies in this region to set their climate target is to have the obligation from the national government, right? Which is not really available right now for the Indonesia, for other countries in the region also. But again, usually we see a lot of other drivers for the companies to consider the science-based target. One of the drivers is actually from the investors here. So we see a lot of investors that is right now considering to only prioritize to invest to the companies who have a green overall planning here. For example, emission reduction here. So for companies that are considering to have more investors, more foreign investors, usually they need to consider to this one as their business strategy, because of course, BlackRock already commit to have the ESG investor more, and also some of other big investor also considering to have more investment towards the sustainable development in general here. So again, that one is another drivers for the companies. And one thing that is also big is from our side, actually, from the customer side here. So usually if one of the things that the company usually share with us is that they have also benefits from getting the reputation increase here. So for example, if you have already planning to reduce the emissions, usually the customer will have a higher satisfactory level. There is different types of the research result also, which also can drive more competitors of that company to also consider this type of the engagement science-based target here. Yeah, but again, I agree with Ibu Melanie that in companies in Indonesia, especially, the main driver is still to comply with the national governments, which is not really mandatory at this point. We have the OJK. What is POJK in English? The POJK, which is basically to have the publicly listed company to have the sustainable reporting, but that also is not yet widely affecting any of the emission reduction activities, because I think the transition towards the low carbon economy is still very challenging in the developing countries.
Yeah. Okay. Okay,
Okay.
you can move on to your slide, Pak Dedi. I will call up the other participant who want to ask you question maybe after you finish your presentation.
Yeah. Okay. We have 28 minutes left. Okay. I will keep it going. Next slide, please, Mas. Next slide will be about the idea of the net zero targets here. So I believe you may see the net zero targets in the different contexts of the corporate engagement, but also in terms of the country. We see unexpectedly China is committing to have the net zero targets by 2060. We have also Japan and South Korea as one of the biggest emitter in the Asia also to commit to the net zero targets. So what is actually the difference between net zero targets and the science-based targets here? As I mentioned, the very first difference between science-based net zero target and also science-based target annual is the time frame here. So the net zero targets it's a long-term target. You need to get the net zero by 2050, while science-based target is like the interim targets. So it's building upon the science-based target. You will reach the net zero targets by 2050. So science-based target again is a short and medium term, 5 to 15 years, that will build up into the different types of the science-based target. The different types also from the science-based targets and also net zero is about the offsets here. So maybe you may already hear about the offsets idea that you may purchase some of the offsets from the purchasers that can be claimed as one of the strategy to reduce the emissions here. So in terms of the science-based target, the offsets are not acceptable to be included as one of the strategies to reduce the emission, because the idea is to reduce your own emission first before purchasing any additional offsets from maybe carbon credits or other types of the offsets here. But in terms of the net zero targets, there are times or cases when companies can have specific emission that cannot be abated at all. So and that small emission that will remain up until 2050 can be abated by some neutralization, which means that you may abate the remaining emissions after you have emission reductions from your own supply chain and also decarbonization from your supply chain. That unreduced emission can be neutralized by purchasing the offsets here. So the different idea of the offsets is always, very polarizing, because of course there are market in Indonesia. Also, we have carbon pricing in coming years. So this is also becoming a more and more hitting, discussion about the net zero and also the offsets here. Okay, the next slide. I think for the next slide, I'll share you some of the benefits for the companies who are setting their emission targets. This is the research that we are doing with some of the companies, leading companies who are setting their science-based target. The first thing first is that 55% of the company executive have gained competitive advantage from setting the science-based target here. This is related with the leadership. So the companies who are early in the science-based target feels that they have more competitive advantage in comparison to other peers that have not yet going into the science-based targets initiative. And the second one is, as I mentioned previously in the previous question, it's about the brand reputation here. So 79% of the companies that we engage have seen their brand reputation boosted from the setting science-based target because of course, the idea of the climate change is becoming mainstream in the media right now. So the companies who also engage with science-based target having their brand reputation boosted. And the third one is about the innovation, of course. So 60% of the company's executive have seen increased innovation from science-based target. Of course, when you set the science-based target, you need to have a technology that strategically needs to be in line with the low carbon technology. So that will also increase innovation in terms of the business, transitioning from the very high or brown business to the green business. That will also enhance the innovation. And lastly, as I mentioned, one of the biggest driver for the science-based target is from the investor side here. So 52% of the companies already seen that the investor confidence boosted from the setting science-based targets here. In fact, we have research that show after setting the science-based target, some of the companies already achieving like 73% new types of the investor that are affecting from the science-based target setting here, especially in this year about the green recovery and also green COVID-19 recovery that should be in line with the sustainable development general. I think, sorry about that one. I think this is also will be in line with the some of the strategies for the companies here. Okay, next slide. I will have two different types of the case study. Here is the first case study from the Coca-Cola HBC, who are commit, if you may see the targets in the left-hand side, commit to reduce their scope 1 and scope 2 emission by 2020, sorry. And it's right now being updated to another 15 years from 2035 here. So Coca-Cola is commits to reduce scope 1 and 2 emissions by 50% per liter of produce, which means that they are using the second approach, which is the emission intensity. And they have also commit to reduce the scope 3 emissions, because of course, when you consider the business line of Coca-Cola, it will not only depends on scope 1 and scope 2 emission only, but you need to also consider the scope 3 analysis here. And you may see from the right-hand side that the Coca-Cola shared that the science-based target adds value to our customers, consumers, and also authorities and investors here. So this is in line with the research that we find that not only the investor, but also the internal stakeholders having more thorough investment into the Coca-Cola. And also that the Coca-Cola shared to us that the science-based target will help them to know that they are contributing and playing the part in the emission reduction targets. Okay, for the next slide, we will have one case study from the company in the Southeast Asia, which is Singtel. Singtel is the Singapore telecommunication that is the first company in Asia Pacific outside Japan to have the science-based target approved here. So in terms of Singtel, they have also targets in scope 1 and 2 emission by 40% by 2030. And also because of the wider scope of the emission in the Singtel, they have their own scope 3 reduction targets, which is 30% by 2015 to 2030 here. So you may see that in case of the Singtel, they have their own direct and indirect suppliers targets also. So it's a combination between scope 1, 2, and also scope 3 targets here, which means that in terms of the business case of the Singtel, they are not only need to reduce the emissions from their own supply chain, but also they need to educate the suppliers, their partners, to also reduce their emission so that the target of the overall companies can be achieved also by 2030 in this case. Okay, so next slide, please, which is, I think, about the key takeaways. So yeah, we're 20 minutes left in the course. So the first one is that investor and other stakeholders are raising the expectations for companies to align their climate target with science. This is the general idea of developing the science-based target, which is from the Paris Agreement. And second one, the climate pledge by government is not enough. Therefore, there needs to be an additional targets that I mentioned in the beginning from the private sectors to still keep the warming temperature. And in terms of the science-based target, it is a leadership platform that's demonstrate the strategic long-term thinking and also the showcase the leadership that the company are joining the initiative to leveraging the opportunities for taking their part in reducing the emissions. And last but not least, the growth of SPTs and net zero are sending signals that the companies can take their part, and this one to sending signals also to the national governments that we as a company already have our part to reduce, and the national government can also be more ambitious in setting their emission reduction targets. Okay, next slide. I think next slide is just if you want to know more about the science-based target, you can go to the Science Based Target website, and I will drop also my email here. So if you have any further question about Science Based Target, you may drop the emails to my address below. Okay, thank you, and I'll hand over to Ibu Melanie. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Pak Dedi, for an excellent presentation, and it's really yeah, I can feel that it's really challenging for the WRI Indonesia base, yeah, because you are based in developing country that is not required to reduce emission yet, yeah, because yeah, our our contribution to the greenhouse gas is, of course, very small compared to the developed country, yeah, but yeah, still we as consumer at least, yeah, we can play a role, yeah, to encourage these companies to do something about this. All right, thank you so much, Pak Dedi. I will call Nanda Nur Faiza. You want to ask a question to Pak Dedi? Nanda, Nanda Nur Faiza, are you still here? Nanda? Nanda, hello, Nanda. Okay, if Nanda is not here, I'll come to Amaria Anugrah. You have questions for Pak Dedi, Amaria? Please.
Yes, ma'am. I have two questions. The first one is, do SBTI do any inspection on how the companies execute their targets? And the second is, if I take an example, Gojek, which has more, their business is more they have more partners than their office activities. Do they need to take their partners into consideration too?
Yeah. Okay, thank
Thank you,
Mbak
Amaria.
Maria, thank you. That's a good question. So in terms of the inspection, I think there are two things that the SBTI is doing with the companies. The first one is verifying the targets, whether that is in line with the Paris Agreement that I mentioned. There are two types of the targets, well below 2 degrees Celsius and also 1.5 degrees Celsius. So some of the companies who are submitting their targets and not really ambitious enough, we have a letter of rejection for that one. So we assess the targets that to be submitted need to be in line with one of the two categories. And then the second one is in terms of how we track the progress. As I mentioned in the previous slides, there are the requirement for companies to disclose their overall progress in the achievement of the science-based target by disclosing their emission data annually, whether it's in the reporting platform or whether it's in the annual report of the company. So that is basically to have your data to track the progress of the emissions towards the public, the documents that are available for public here. There is also to really track the progress because, of course, again, we don't want the science-based target to be just the greenwashing platform. So here, the responsibility after committing is also needed to be, addressed also here. And for your second question, yes, of course, the partners, or in this case, maybe in terms of the companies, usually they use the term as the suppliers, or the one that also have the activities indirectly related with the emissions here. So usually the idea is that the companies need to have a specific target for each of the partners. So for example, if you have more than 10 suppliers, maybe you may assign one supplier to reduce this amount of emission. And you may also assign different types of the supplier this amount of emission. So getting that one, also getting the engagement by getting the capacity building, of course, because of course, the suppliers usually have this smaller business than the main companies, usually to educate them first what is the science-based target, what is the need for the importance for getting the emission reduced. That is actually the very first step. Aside from, just to out of the blue, you need to reduce this one by maybe 2050. Getting the education is important for the partners and also the suppliers for the companies. Thank you.
Thank you, Pak Dedi. Nanda, you're already here? Nanda Nur Faiza? Not yet, then I will just then read your question, to Pak Dedi, Nanda. Nanda said, I want to ask about the approach that can be taken for a small company. Do you think it uses the same approach? And what is the first step that small companies should take to target emission reductions?
Yeah, that's a good question, because I didn't include the in my presentation, but there are special routes for the SMEs. SMEs is the small medium enterprises. We WRI and our other partners in SBTI define SMEs as the companies who is less than 500 employees. So we have specific routes for those SMEs, which is the targets that we are requiring them to set is less ambitious than the non-SMEs companies here. That is also to not include the targets in the scope 3 activities. So the small companies or SMEs, they require to reduce the emissions in line with scope 1 and scope 2 emissions only. And the level of ambition also less ambitious than the overall companies who have a bigger companies, because of course we expect them to have a smaller capacity and also smaller resources. So the idea is to leveraging the smaller companies towards science-based target first before they may update to a more ambitious targets here. Yeah, but I can really share you also the document related to the SPTs also after this presentation. Thank you.
All right, great. Is there anyone else wants to ask question to Pak Dedi? Okay, so I think that's it for today's session.
I think there are hand raised.
Sorry. Mahmud Bashir. Okay, Mahmud.
Yes. Good morning. Here we are morning.
All right. Where are you, Mahmud?
Yeah.
Mahmud, where are you?
I'm from Nigeria.
Oh, Nigeria.
Oh.
What time now in Nigeria now?
Yeah.
What time in Nigeria now?
Now in Nigeria we are 7:55 a.m.
Oh, all right.
Oh,
right.
very early morning. Good morning.
Yeah.
Yes. So that's why sometimes it find me difficult to join as early as possible.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Good to have you.
So, sir, my not contribution, but just want to inform that here we have a little problem or more problem on this emission with regard to this tricycle we are using for commercial transportations. Like in my state, Kano, I'm from Kano State, we have more than 2 million tricycle and they are all using fuel. So do you understand what my talk? Okay, so we have more than 2 million tricycle and they are all using petroleum. So the level of emission is very high. It's very high because we don't use much buses for local transportations. So I just want
private vehicle.
Yes, sir. How can we manage it? Because I, as individual, and I am from the Department of Forestry and Wildlife Management, Kano University of Science and Technology. I'm academic staff there. So always I'm worried about when I see like in traffic, the level of emission is very high. So as you know, I'm very curious that what kind of emission are we giving out? This is only one sector. We have industries. Many people are using private vehicles. So these are most of the problems that we are facing here. And it's like the government is not pushing any input or any things to reduce the problem. Thank you very much, Prof.
Yeah, that is a good question. And I think what I could share is that I think Ibu Melanie and our colleague in Indonesia also knows very well that our main problem in Indonesia, but the electricity purchase is also still there, right? Because we have almost no option to purchase the electricity from the independent purchasing power right now. So right now, basically, the idea is to further renewable energies coming from the government. And unfortunately, that is still the case up until now. But we're seeing a new light right now because the PLN, which is what is the English of PLN, the electricity service provider in Indonesia companies, the main provider is right now considering to have the RECs, which is renewable energy certificates in Indonesia. So again, to your question, Mahmoud, I think it's again it's a really systematic problem, right? So in terms of what we could do in our part is that to push this agenda that actually the companies already playing their part to reduce their own emissions, and the turn is in the government also to really leverage the opportunities and also to push more agenda that the policies that will also rely more on the low carbon technology here. So again, because we have our own position and our own role here, I really suggest to keep what you're doing, and not to mention also that you need to have started to reduce your emissions from your own footprint. Like I think right now the our biggest footprint is from the air conditioner that we have, because we're working from home almost every day right now. So I have my own specific schedule when to turn on, when to turn off my overall air conditioner here, and as simple as getting the delivery of the food. I think I have my own my own rules. How can I purchasing the delivery food, because that's also the biggest. Again, we need to play our own part in case of the policies or regulation is not in our side here. Thank you. I hope that answered the questions. Yeah, Bu, I think you're on mute.
Sorry. Zul Edward, are you talking about the calculator, the footprint calculator? Because from individual side, we will have the second speaker who will deliver about this individual footprint reduction, carbon footprint reduction.
But if
Is
you're
that
talking about the
Edward?
SBTi tools, yes, I can really share it with you.
Yeah.
But I hope we can, if Pak Mahardika can share it, maybe we can demonstrate it in our activities area, maybe at home or at office.
Oh yeah, I think that will be in the next session if that's.
Yeah.
But I can share you the tools that we have in the science target, which is
Yeah,
more on the common level.
We need the tools, but maybe the explanation in the next session we will participate it again.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Okay then. I think there is no more question. Yeah, guys. Is there any question from you guys? I don't see any more question in the chat room then. Okay then. So thank you so much, Pa Dedi, for having us today, and it was really interesting. Yes, the science-based target initiative is really and it's really important. And I don't know, I also have thinking that we want to again invite you for giving us the guest lecture in our environmental economics lecture. So actually, we for each lecture we have one slot for a guest lecture, and what you deliver today is really related to our environmental economics lecture, and we have about 500 students. So if we can have you again in the next 2-3 weeks, it will be great. But okay, we talk about that later on.
Okay.
Again, thank you so much, Pak Dedi. Hopefully what we learned today from Pak Dedi will be beneficial for all of us. And just now give a big applause for Pak Dedi. Thank you.
Virtually. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for having me.
Thank you, Pak Dedi. Okay, then after this, we will have another speaker from Work Resource Institute Indonesia based, Nanda, Pak Nanda ya. He will talk more about from the individual side, yeah, so carbon footprint from individual side, and also the WRI or World Resource Institute also has developed an apps to calculate our individual carbon footprint. So yeah, it will be very, very interesting, yeah, because Pak Dedi already delivered to us at the company level, and then after this individual level will be delivered by Pak Nanda. Okay, guys, so we will be here. We should be here in the next about 15 minutes. Okay, so this will be for you and for me also a short break, yeah, for I don't know, maybe for coffee break, or some of you needs to pray like me. I have to perform as a prayer. So and then after that we will see again here in this Zoom room in the next 15 minutes. Okay, see you then. I will put the attendance link for Pak Nanda's lecture now. If you want to now fill in the attendance form for Pak Nanda's lecture, you can do it now, yeah? Wait. Okay, let me pray first. Okay, guys. Hello everybody. Mas Arif, Pak Nanda udah di sini belum ya? Halo Mas Nanda, are you already here?
Yes, I am, Bu Melanie.
Apa kabar Pak Nanda?
Good, baik, alhamdulillah. Ya, good to see you.
Maaf, aku barusan sholat asar dulu tadi. Apa namanya, mencuri waktu.
Oh, udah nggak di Jakarta ya berarti ya, karena udah asar ya?
Saya di
I
Sydney.
see.
It's Sydney now, yeah. Because then
Right,
after this
okay.
will be maghrib, so yeah.
Yeah.
I have
Nice
to
weather,
just
Bu,
escape.
in Sydney.
It's 40 degrees today, so it's heat wave. Heat
Okay.
wave. Yes, really bad. Really bad.
Yeah.
This weekend is really bad this weekend. Yeah, so just
Okay.
better
stay indoor.
yeah, and having this summer course with you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Exactly. All right. So we still have 88 participants now. Should we proceed? Yeah, Pak Nanda. Let's start.
Yes, please, Bu.
Okay. Wait a minute. Pak Nanda, have to read your all right. Okay, guys. After this, our first speaker was Pak Dedi, who already talked to us about the carbon footprint reduction from the company side. Now it's Pak Nanda's turn, to talk about us more about this carbon reduction, but from the individual, what we as individual can do about this. All right. So Pak Nanda, Nanda Nur, serve as the Sustainable Land Use Project Lead for WRI Indonesia, World Resource Institute Indonesia, in collaboration with subnational governments and communities. And he leads projects and policy research on sustainable forest and land governance in Indonesia, with focus on improving spatial data management infrastructure. Prior to WRI, Nanda Nur worked on sustainability consulting projects pertaining to material intensive operation in Papua. Wow. Social enterprise modeling and public procurement. During his time at the United Nations, Nanda Nur assisted ecosystem service valuation studies in Jambi and UN's effort on aligning 2030 SDGs with Indonesian government's national medium-term development plan. Also, Nanda, as a former curator of Global Shapers Community Bandung Hub, a young leader initiative of the World Economic Forum, Nanda chaired a regional Sustainable Cities Conference and represented Indonesia for paper presentations. Pak Nanda earned a Bachelor of Science Management from SBM at Bandung Institute of Technology Indonesia, followed by Master of Science in Environmental Management and Policy from IIEE at Lund University, Sweden. I don't know how to read this, Lund, or maybe not. Pak Nanda will.
Yeah, it's Lund.
Lund. Oh,
yeah.
All right. Okay. So you have to you can do a Sweden language? No, it's English there, right?
I wish, Bu Melanie.
Yeah, because it's difficult.
Not anymore.
Used
to be, but not anymore.
All right. Okay, we continue. So with this is Pak Nanda's thesis on governing Indonesia's REDD plus implementation and climate smart agriculture. He is an accredited sustainability management certified professional and has helped publish a nature-based entrepreneurship idea book. Nanda Nur's interests are reading nonfictions, watching true story movies, and learning new languages. His hobbies include listening to classical music, playing tennis, and beach and forest trekking. Okay, Pak Nanda, now the time and place are yours.
Okay, thank you, Bu Melanie, for the quite comprehensive introduction. I believe some of that are relevant, but hobbies always change. So over time, I think
I've added a few more hobbies along the way, especially during this pandemic. But then I hope everyone here are staying healthy wherever you are, physically, mentally. Stay strong, everyone. Stay positive. We know we are in this together, but we can come out of this even better together as well. Now, I've been given the honor by Bu Melanie and her team for the next, if I'm not mistaken, 1 hour, Bu Melanie, including Q&A, yes. Kindly give me
75 minutes, Pak Nanda.
75 minutes.
75
okay.
minutes, yeah.
Right, yeah. Kindly give me time reminders whenever possible. I will be sharing with you a few slides and some video as well on how to on why and how is it important to be able to estimate carbon footprint and also plan the reduction as well, so that like Bu Melanie mentioned before, it is equally important for us, for producers to do it, but also us as individuals, as consumers at local level, not just at regional or national big scale level, to also do it, because we have some contribution in the problem, but also for the solution. So it's equally important, and we need to address it all together as well. Now, before I go deeper in the presentation, I would like to invite you to watching a quick video. It's around 3 minutes, and it's in Indonesian language, but we still have the subtitles. So hopefully you can also follow that up, yeah? Oh, well, we just reached 100 people. Hi, everyone. So let me try to share my screen. There we go. Wait. Let me see if the, yeah. Please let me know if the computer sound doesn't work, ya.
Rutinitas yang kita jalani setiap hari terdiri dari berbagai aksi yang kita pilih setiap detiknya. Pergi naik apa ya ke kantor? Makan siang apa ya hari ini? Pakai baju apa ya buat ketemu si dia? Semua pilihan tersebut tidak hanya berdampak bagi diri kita sendiri, namun juga berdampak secara langsung bagi semua kehidupan yang ada di sekitarmu, seperti temanmu, keluargamu, juga kelestarian makhluk hidup lain di muka bumi ini. Setiap penduduk Indonesia rata-rata menghasilkan emisi sebesar 2,09 ton karbon dioksida per tahun. Angka ini setara dengan emisi yang dihasilkan dari pengisian daya lebih dari 240.000 smartphone. Sebagian dari emisi tersebut berasal dari kendaraan yang kita naiki, makanan yang kita makan, pakaian yang kita kenakan, hingga listrik yang kita gunakan. Mungkin selama ini kita tidak sadar, namun sumbangan emisi kita setiap harinya berdampak pada kondisi bumi yang kita tinggali hari ini. Emisi yang berlebihan membuat gas rumah kaca yang selama ini membantu menyeimbangkan suhu bumi jadi tidak terkendali. Akhirnya suhu bumi menjadi semakin panas dan menyebabkan krisis iklim. Dari suhu yang semakin panas, cuaca yang semakin ekstrim dan tidak menentu, hingga kekeringan dan bencana seperti banjir yang datangnya tak terduga adalah beberapa dampak nyata dari krisis iklim yang dapat kita rasakan hingga sekarang. Kebutuhan manusia yang semakin tinggi juga membuat hewan-hewan kehilangan habitat aslinya, sehingga mereka menjadi mudah lemah dan terjangkiti penyakit, kemudian mencari habitat baru di dekat manusia. Hal ini menyebabkan bakteri dan virus dari hewan mudah berkembang dan kemudian menyebar ke populasi manusia. Merasa tidak asing mendengarnya? Yap, salah satunya adalah pandemi virus COVID-19 yang sedang kita alami saat ini. Keseimbangan alam yang terganggu akan menjadi rumah yang menyenangkan bagi virus dan bakteri baru untuk tumbuh. Keadaan ini bukan berarti akhir dari cerita kita. Sebagai manusia, kita adalah penyebab utama terjadinya krisis iklim ini. Namun, di tangan kita jugalah keadaan dapat berbalik. Dimulai dari pilihan yang kita buat secara sadar setiap harinya. Pilihan sederhana seperti bepergian hanya untuk hal yang penting saja, menggunakan energi listrik secukupnya, mengonsumsi lebih sedikit daging sapi, dapat menekan jejak emisi yang harus ditanggung bumi. Tapi kita tidak bisa menunggu lebih lama lagi. Di tahun 2030, kita harus bisa mengurangi emisi sebesar 45%. demi menahan peningkatan suhu bumi di bawah 1,5 derajat Celcius. Jika tidak, dampak krisis iklim yang kita rasakan akan semakin memburuk. Dan target ini tidak akan tercapai tanpa kamu. Kamu bisa berkontribusi dengan menjadi pejuang bumi. Dimulai dengan tanggap akan emisi harian kita melalui aplikasi dan website emisi. Melalui aplikasi dan website ini, kita dapat menghitung dan melacak jumlah emisi yang kita hasilkan, menyarankan aktivitas alternatif yang minim emisi, juga mengajak menanam pohon untuk mengurangi menyerap emisi yang kamu keluarkan. Sehingga kita dapat memikirkan kembali dampak dari pola konsumsi dan gaya hidup yang kita pilih sehari-hari. Aksimu begitu berarti. Dimulai dari satu langkah kecil untuk mengurangi emisi. Bila dilakukan terus-menerus dan bersama-sama oleh 7 miliar orang, masa depan yang berkelanjutan akan terwujud.
Yeah. Thank you for watching. So that gives us an overview of what I'm going to share a bit with you through some slides over the next few minutes. Basically, that sums up that the idea of if we want to do a good climate action, and if we want it to be impactful enough, it has to be done all together by as many people as possible, and it has to be continuous. So it's not just one time and then off, but it has to be built up over time. So let me share the screen now, and let's go through some of the materials that I've prepared today. It's going to be a bit technical, everyone, and because the idea and the topic is the estimation of individual carbon footprints itself. So I'll be sharing you some of the methods, some of the ways to do that, and also what we must do to plan some reduction of that emissions. And we're going to use, if you have seen it in the video already, zero emissions app in Indonesia, which is developed by WRI Indonesia itself. It's going to be the case in point here. The methods inside that application will be what we are going to explore. So yes, so you can see the left side, it's the picture of Indonesian Jakarta, capital city, about transportation, which is going to be the case study also for this session. So before everything else, I want to show you this kind of two pictures that represents the condition of many different countries as well. But the idea is, can more of us not only be aware of, but also act more on climate and on solving climate crisis. So if everyone can see the picture, sorry, it's not moving. Yeah, from the left and the right, it sounds similar, right? Both of them are showing lots of people with few keywords, or lots of keywords on climate crisis, saying different things for different purposes, perhaps. But do you realize that these are the pictures happening on the same day at two different locations, one at New York and one at Jakarta, which is the climate strike moment last year in September. We can see that in this picture, you'll see the two different style of communities of individuals in a high income country and a lower middle income country like Indonesia, protesting, and showing their care for the environment, for the future of humanity, sustainability, and so on. But can we not only see this picture as a manifestation of people's awareness, but also potential for solving climate crisis? Because the fact is that global climate momentum has always been here. From decades ago, even though now it's getting much bigger, but the thing is, can we turn that good awareness into real action? And this is what I'm going to kind of share today. The idea of even each of us individuals have some contribution, have some opportunity to contribute well to the environment, not just becoming the problem, but also the solution. But we need a scale. That's why it's important to firstly estimate as well the carbon footprint. Now, if you look at those pictures again, most of them are located in cities. Why? Because cities are very important, because more than 50% of world population now lives in cities. More than 2/3 of the world population will be in cities by 2050. the thing is, it's also the main source of economic drivers. More than 80% of GDP are also based in cities. So the idea of having to go through environmental issues and economic growth at the same time it's not a question anymore. It has to be done because both of them have to be working hand by hand together because that's kind of the only way to go if we want to build a more sustainable economy. Now, the fact that globally, you'll see this in the stark picture, an exponential and unbalanced increase in emissions and population. From 1850 to 2011, we see an increase of only 6 times of humans. Well, that's already a lot as well. We have those population bubble since decades ago. 6 times humans from 1.2 billion until 7 billion now, and potentially 9 by 2050. But we have 163 times more emissions. So that means the individual emissions, meaning, or people say emissions per capita in terms of carbon dioxide and other pollutants are much bigger now than ever because of our different lifestyle, because of our different activities and how we manage that in our daily activities. So this is the example. Some of the numbers, we see that a lot, yeah, from different sources, but this one I just wanted to show you globally. This is kind of the general structure of emission sources. So like electricity and heating contributing a lot, also with forest and land use, industry, and then transportation, other energy, food waste, and building as well. So, but from this picture, what is the one thing perhaps that connects them all? For me, that answer would be that all these emission sources are deeply connected with our individual lifestyle and also daily consumption. You can realize that maybe at small scale, everything is connected with our individual lifestyle. So yes, producer also plays a role because they are the one making the products, but we have the final say on whether we want to buy that products because we are the consumers. So it's a good combination. Both parties need to play together. And I'm highlighting transportation on the left-hand side because it's going to be the case in point today following the method that we are going to discuss about. Now, where do emissions come from and how do we sequester it? So the topic of today is estimating individual carbon footprint, right? So at first, we know that in the video as well, you have seen that any kind of activities that we have in our lives emit emissions. So for example, like driving a car, taking a motorbike, trains, taking food, and then even you're wearing clothes, and even using electricity, all of that per unit of each consumption, like kilometers or kilograms or kilowatt hours of electricity, it has emissions. Like in terms of carbon dioxide, pollutants, like those 4 that I showed in the picture. So if it is released, then it's going to increase. That's why the arrow is going up. But on the right-hand side, we also have opportunity to lower that emissions and make it zero, basically. In one of those examples is to sequestration by trees. And by that trees, we know that every single tree has different sequestration capacity. It has different growth pattern as well. So we need to be able to find the right amount of trees for the right amount of emissions that it wants to sequester. So this kind of simple framework would be able to answer, if I plant, for example, in your home, like home gardening and stuff now becoming the new norms during the pandemic, knows that if you're planting 10 or 100 trees at your backyard or at your campus, at your school office, would it be enough? Because the numbers would show whether you are only planting, only sequestering or eliminating emissions 10% or 50% or 70% of your actual life emissions. Or for some people, if they have a very large forest area, for example, then they might be sequestering already 200% of their life emissions. So that's even better. But the idea is, my message in this slide is that we need the numbers, because it's the only way that we can know if we are managing enough. People say if we cannot measure, we cannot manage, right? So then also, if I want to act more on climate, which action should I take? Which kind of tree should I plant? Which kind of source of emissions should I reduce? Should I consume less meat? Should I travel more with public transport? It depends, because we have to know the numbers first. Now, that kind of calculation, as a global environmental think tank / research organization, WRI publishes this kind of method in a paper. We call it a technical note on methodologies for calculating urban transport emissions and tree sequestration. So this kind of paper basically uses as many Indonesian science as possible based on ground information, the calculation that is not always simple. I will show you later. But it's easy to apply actually. And it's being reviewed by nationally and globally to maintain the scientific accountability, being transparent and open, and also updated periodically. So feel free to go through this document in detail, but in this session, I will be summarizing it for you. So we can know how exactly to estimate our carbon footprint, and also how to reduce that by, for example, planting trees. Now, let's see from the view of land transport first. So on the left side, you see the cost of traffic jams in 6 Indonesian cities. It reaches $100 million and even much bigger in Jakarta. And also we'll see that the average concentration of daily PM 2.5, which is one of the most common air pollutants, harming directly to your respiratory system, in Indonesia and other major cities are getting worse as well. So we know that environmental issues such as pollution and emission, even though I talk a lot about climate crisis just now, which is happening globally, it also have direct impact for our health, which is pretty much closer to most of people's hearts, because it is health. And yeah, the least desirable in terms of emission is private vehicle, and the most desirable itself is pedestrians. The higher we go to the hierarchy, the less emissions that we are releasing per individual. Now, I mentioned before there are GHG, greenhouse gases, but we also have pollutants. So the left side will be most of the greenhouse gases, which directly impacting the atmosphere, the climate change in general for everyone globally. So basically, if you are in, for example, Jakarta, you are releasing CO2, the impact will be globally. But for the right-hand side, pollutants, it affects more into the health, into your health, and the impact is not necessarily at global stage. So if you are releasing carbon monoxide, for example, which is highly intense in the use of motorbikes in Jakarta, for example, the impact to health will be mostly for Jakarta people, not for the rest of Indonesia or the rest of the world. So it's kind of different, and we need to address it in a good way, so that we know that whatever climate solutions that we are doing will benefit the actual recipient that we want. Now, the estimation for GHG emission for land transport, it's separated by, it's separated by top-down and bottom-up approach, which is the amount of fuel used and also the activity-based. So it's still the similar context that we are having with energy sources. So name it, fossil fuel and everything is still the source of emissions. Also happen with land transportation, mobile combustion, because we are burning fuel, that leads to emission factors. But also the distance also matters, because the longer that we travel, the more energy that we use. Now, for example, the method to calculate GHG and pollutants in our cases, and imagine our daily lives, wherever you are in the world, from your home to your school, you are, let's say, for example, taking a walk to the station and then minibus, and then a bigger bus maybe, and then more walking, or using private vehicle all the way, or motorbike, or different types. The equation to calculate your CO2, sulfur dioxide, carbon monoxide, nitrogen oxide, and PM 2.5 can be a combination of fuel and distance-based method. So total emission and total pollutant, it's going to depend a lot on D. So D stands for distance, like I mentioned before, and also the fuel and electricity consumption factor for transportation mode, and also emission factor for each of the fuel that you use, and also number of people that are traveling together. So you can see if this sounds a bit too complex, then remember that if you are choosing a few types of fuel, it's going to be more fuel efficient, which leads to lower emission. And also if you are traveling together, you are sharing the emission to the number of people in that trip. So that's the kind of the simple version of it. Now, these are the potential details of all the calculation for land transport emissions. If you are want to get the highest accuracy of possible of estimating your carbon footprint from land transport, then you'll have to determine and know which type of fuel that you're, which type of vehicle that you are using first. And each of them has different type of fuel electricity consumption factor based on each type of fuel. So gasoline, diesel, how many cars in the train, it depends. And these are the numbers that are usable. And also if you are using RON 92 or RON 88 gasoline types, it will also depend, it also affect the number of emissions that you are actually releasing from that trip. Again, this is for the sake of accuracy, right? So the more information that you know about your daily activities, the higher accuracy of calculation of emissions that you get. But sometimes people don't know the details. So there are also ways to simplify the calculation and take some assumptions on the number. But I'm going to give you some example of the emissions coming from someone, let's say me, going for 10 kilometers of private car and then shifting into private motorbike for another 10K, but also 20 kilometers of train. Let's say I'm traveling to other cities every day for a week for my work. And assuming this is no longer pandemic days, you know. Car and bike and electric train have different ways of calculating emissions. We know the distance, we know the energy conversion, we know the emission factor from the database, we know the total emissions for each of our trip divided by number of passengers in that trip. And we know emissions per day, for example. And then if you want to multiply it by different time frame, for example, weekly, monthly, yearly, then we'll just have to multiply it by the correct number. Then we add it up, then we know the total number of emissions that we are releasing for that particular journey. And this is just one journey, many different journeys, of course, everyone take every single day. So it will add up a lot. So now you're also imagining 870 kilograms of yearly emissions. That's quite big, but we'll see how big it is later. Now, this is what I mentioned before about simplification and limitation in estimating land transport emissions. So the simplification is that it's difficult to be able to put into account the driving behavior of someone and also the congestion situation into the fuel efficiency, hence the emissions of that vehicle, because it's too much information and it's very difficult to track. But it actually changes the number of emissions, even though may not be by significant number. So we kind of recommend for now it's not included in the calculation. Also, a factor of vehicle engine maintenance. A good engine will keep the fuel efficiency high, hence the emission low. So it is assumed that these factors had already been considered as well in your EF and energy economy factors. For Indonesian case, for example, data availability for calculations in different countries are limited. So the number of factors that we need to put into account are also limited. Only best estimates are also can be done. If you are not in Indonesia, for example, you may have more information so that would enrich the numbers, but at least the best estimates is always there. We also know that new research can lead to better determinants and coefficients as well. Now, yes, that's one side for transportation. I'm just going to give you a bit of overview of other emission sources, like this is food that requires a lot more resources to produce. More resources equals more emissions. So if you are someone who likes eating beef, lamb, goat, remember that it has very high emission actually, more than several times of the other types of common food like dairy, pork even, and poultry or most of the vegetables. So because of the land use issues that beef, lamb and goat need so that they can grow before making themselves beef basically in our plate. So yeah, that's an example of if you want to reduce emissions first, then one of the ways is to kind of change a bit, shift a bit of your diet into a vegetarian style, for example. Now, other than food, it's also about fashion, something that we also wear every day. Yeah, it takes almost 3,000 liters of water to make one cotton shirt, and it requires a lot of other resources as well. So it's quite massive, and that water can fill someone's stomach for drink for more than 2.5 years. And not to mention, this is just the production of the fashion products, but we also have to think about the shipping of the material, which goes back to the emission calculation that we did just now. Now, how about flights? Now, return flight from Jakarta to Singapore, it produces about 200 kilograms of carbon dioxide per person. And now we know that we can always absorb that flight emission by planting 4 mangrove trees and keep them for at least 10 years because the bigger the tree, the more amount of emissions that it can sequester. But now I'm kind of jumping a bit, right, everyone? Because I've already talked about absorption or sequestration of emission through tree planting. Now let's, in the next slides, talk about those trees. Now, we know that trees are a nature-based solution. And it's the CO2 source from different areas. Trees process sequestration and carbon dioxide in the air. Trees basically that grows, they are capturing, absorbing, and storing carbon and releases oxygen as a photosynthesis process. It's one of the most basic and natural role of a good tree is to do this basically, but it also goes beyond sequestering. It can also improve water quality, provide sustainable timber products, soil health, food, air quality, biodiversity, employment, and also recreation. So it goes beyond just environment, but also social and economy. So it's basically sustainable development at its core. Now, the method to calculate sequestration of CO2 per tree is to see basically stock difference and gain loss method. So what I said before, the bigger the tree, the more emissions it can absorb. This is what I meant by biomass. So the more mass the tree has, then the more emissions it can sequester. Also the gain loss method where carbon input component and respiration process and also matter in terms of calculating the sequestration capacity of a tree. Now, a little bit more technical, again, total tree biomass, we have that above ground biomass and lower ground biomass, below ground biomass, sorry. And we also need to consider the dead organic matter, leaf litter, and soil organic matter as well in the calculation. Again, this is the kind of complicated but accurate numbers. We can also go a bit simpler in the calculation, but we may have only generic numbers, which is not very accurate in terms of science. This is more details on the carbon stock itself. It's called allometric equations to estimate the biomass of correlating tree diameter and height. The equation itself is a function of volume and biomass with its total tree biomass and then volume, TCF, the total carbon stock, and also calculated by multiplying carbon stock with each relative C carbon and CO2 atom mass component. We are assuming different things. The thing is, there is one quote that people says, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago, and the second best time is now. It's kind of poetic, I know, but we actually can prove that by science as well. IPCC have determined the default time frame for growing a trees, and best sequestration period is also for 20 years. So that means whenever you are planting a tree, it's always best to keep it alive for as long as possible, if possible until the next 20 years, because you will see later in the slides, there are numbers that shows the bigger the tree, and it's going to exponentially increase the number of emissions it is sequestering. But then conservative scenarios need to be taken because we also cannot deny there are trees that will be dying because of natural or man-made reasons. So it also need to be put into account. Wood density is a key, and if the allomatic equation is not possible, it's not available, then there are ways like shoot-root ratio that we can use as well. Now, this is the 5 approaches that we can do to calculate the sequestration capacity of a tree, which will lead to different numbers of emissions. The left hand, it goes to the right hand, is the most preferable in terms of accuracy of the numbers until the least preferable in terms of numbers. But then the left-hand side requires the most data. The right-hand side requires the least amount of data. Now, this is the example. So 5 kind of calculation for 5 different types of species. There are 5 different numbers of estimated sequestered carbon dioxide per tree. So it ranges from 90 kilograms, like 50 or 140, and another 90 and 100 kilograms. So this amount of numbers, the equation is there. It's not that super complicated, but it can be useful to calculate the amount of emissions that you will be sequestering if you plant that tree compared to your emissions, for example, from your land transport that we just talked about before. Now, this is the details as shown to you before. 20 years ahead, the numbers will be higher and higher, and the potential of it becoming exponential is also big. Even though not all types will be like this, but we see from few examples, it is the fact. Now, time to combine it with the emissions that we are releasing, right? So let's say we are releasing 82 kilograms of carbon dioxide from our trip. Then we have these 7 types of trees that we want to plant. That's the amount of trees that we actually need to plant each if we want to sequester that 82 kilograms of emissions. So you either plant 1 white mangrove or 2 Surian. And this is, I know the range of numbers is not that significant because we're only talking about 1 trip in 1 day. Imagine that happening in a week, a month, a year, and with multiple trips. So the number will be huge as well. Yeah, this is some of the details that we can do to know the amount of emissions and how to sequester it in a platform situation, which is the what WRI Indonesia is also developing, and how to make this educational thing applicable for everyone and can be understandable in the simplest way possible. Before that, just want to say some simplification process that tree growth, which is presented as an annual increment of tree diameter, is assumed to have linear growth per year. In reality, it may not be the case, and we have to be able to monitor each of the tree, even though it's difficult and costly and takes time. But if we want to get even better than in the accuracy of the sequestration capacity, then we'll have to do that. And if a tree dies, even though it is being replaced with new trees, the speed of the tree growth will be lower. And because it will restart from year 0 in terms of its sequestration potential. Also, a limitation is that the sequestration calculation is estimated by using the best available allometric equation data as well, just like in the land transport case. Now, I just have a few more slides before we can go through some of your questions. Maybe I know that there have been chats. I'm not sure if that's a question or not, but we'll see. But the idea is, please let's take our action, our plan into action. And we can see that happening in many different simple platforms. Just to give you an example of what we have done in Indonesia with different platforms, campaign and crowdfunding platforms. Why is it crowdfunding? Because basically to plant a tree, we need some money, right? To buy the seeds, water it, have people manage it, and transportation of it and everything, right? And yeah, we see in Indonesian cases in around 7 months, not that long, different people like 7,000 people donated for the growth of 15,000 trees and more than 1,500 tons of CO2. So this is very encouraging, but we're still far away from the global target, which is people say 1 trillion trees. So that's a lot. But the scale is actually encouraging enough. But even though we need time, just to give you an example, again from Indonesia cases, we have 270 million people, right? Now, not everyone is technology or education exposed, right? We have that number for people who have access to internet and phones, only 20% of it, so only 50 million. Now, age bounded by people who are can be a good recipient of that environmental education, 55%. And then 69% of people are open to such education because they can be potentially exposed to new things. And also there are some research saying that 64% of our population in Indonesia are willing to pay extra for greener products, meaning instead of just going from place A to place B by a car, the cost is just the fuel. They are willing to purchase the fuel and the amount of trees, the cost of the trees to sequester that kind of trip. So that's kind of what we call a premium for green products. And finally, assume they're interested in planting and lives in cities, only just 25%. So the bottom line numbers could be only 3 million people, right? But then again, maybe this is a conservative number, but even with that 3 million people, not everyone will do it at the same time, because some people are innovators, others are early adopters, some are early majority, late, and some are laggards. So it needs some time. But the question is, where in this graph are you? I mean, if we know already from this session how to estimate carbon footprints from our daily lives with good methods, and then also have plans to reduce it by planting trees, can we be those innovators and early adopters? Because only by being there, we can influence the other 70–80% of the population. Now, emission application itself for the calculation and education and how to do climate action is already out there. It's in Indonesian language, but we know that there are other application out there that can be useful or even more useful, because this application is pretty new, just around 3 months old. But this kind of give an attempt for everyone to be able to count their emissions and know the impact of their lives toward the environment in a more practical and simple way. Because basically, only just by using your fingertips, you can already do climate action. Maybe for some people, it's difficult to get a tree seed and also to plant by yourself. So you just have to do climate action through your fingertips. And a summary would be the importance of this session is that we want to provide education for people that public individual climate action is also useful. Calculators and spatial insights are important for us to do a good climate action. We are also concerned about the tracking and inducing sense of pride for personal achievement. Because imagine now you have become what we call an earth warriors, because you have helped the environment and your friends, families, and organizations to be more greener. And then it's also important to be locally relevant. Like I mentioned before, if you are releasing pollution, then the impact will be very local in your city. So the best place possible to plant a tree is nearby your neighborhood as well. And people need to understand that conducting climate action is not always hard. We can always do it in an easy way with just a few clicks. And by doing this, you're also advancing like Indonesia or your country's emission and tree knowledge, because it can lead to more solutions in the future. Last slide would be to tell you, share with you 4 things that we can do now. One is to reduce your emissions, because we believe that it is always important to reduce emissions first, rather than sequestering it, meaning that it's best for you to shift to public transport if you are driving car now, for example. Do it first, then your remaining emissions will be sequestered, rather than you're still driving your car every single day and then sequestering everything, because it's gonna be difficult to maintain the trees with that amount of impact that you're giving in your life. Also, don't forget to give your critical inputs to science, technology, and methods, because that's kind of the key, and also communication method for wider people. And share your stories with as many people as possible, because we are now talking about not just counting the emissions and changing your emissions, but also scaling it up so that more people are involved and can and wider Earth, have to get the benefit out of it. So that's basically it. Thank you, Earth Warriors, for listening to me talking for over exactly 30 minutes, actually. I believe we still have another 30 minutes, Bu Melanie, if I'm not mistaken, for questions and answers. So feel free. We look forward to the discussion. Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you, Pananda. That was really, really, excellent presentation. And Pananda, I want to confess my sin. About 1 month ago, I just cut my trees in front of my house. rather than plant. Yeah, because it's too big.
What happened?
It's too big, and then it's disturb this this electricity cables, and then and the network. So
right,
I can't do anything else. So it grows to pohon this matua tree.
Matua,
it grows so
one.
fast. Yes. It's really big, and it grows so fast. I can't manage it. So oh my god.
No, I mean, if you're saying the reason that you're cutting it is because of safety reasons, I mean, you're concerned it will disrupt the electricity cable and stuff. I mean, I think that's super fine, Bu Meliani, because we don't want to do climate actions, but also compromising our safety, our security, our good quality of life, because it's really important. Yeah.
Right. Okay, guys, is there any question to Pak Nanda? Come on.
Hey everyone, I've been okay, no questions yet in the chat box, but yeah.
All right, Pananda, I think it will be very interesting for us if I have a question. Okay, Nanda, this is another Nanda. Okay, Nanda Nurfaiza wants to ask Pak Nanda. Come on, Nanda. From Nanda to Nanda.
By the way, please don't call me Pa. I'm still considered young, just like everyone else here.
Okay,
so.
Mas Nanda then.
I'm kidding.
Yeah. Go
on.
Thank
you so much for the opportunity. We have the same name, by the way. My name is Nanda too.
Yes.
And
how are you, Nanda? Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, I cannot open my camera, but I want to ask regarding the tree as a sequester tool that you mentioned before, but it was a little bit counter with the last session of the summer course, because you mentioned that the bigger the tree, the more emissions that can be sequestered. And if I'm not mistaken, to take your point, but the previous sessions note that the fact that the young tree tend to sequester more emissions due to their still in a growth. So what do you think about that?
Okay, I hope I'm getting your entire correct question, because your voice is kind of trembling a bit. I don't know if it's my speaker or yours, but what I heard. Oh, do I answer it now, Bu Melanie, or do we collect all the questions? Sorry, apologies. Go on. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, go on.
Yeah, thank you. So yes, your question was to there are facts that smaller trees can actually absorb more emissions compared to the bigger ones. So it's not a general statement to say that the bigger the trees, it will always have higher sequestration capacity than the small ones. Is that correct, Nanda?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, yes, thank you. So yes, when I said the bigger the trees, the more emission that it is sequestering, it's basically a general observation. So the fact that it's going to depend a lot on many different factors that I mentioned before, the volume, the biomass, the dead litter, leaf litter, and everything, yeah? There's so many factors in place and interacting at the same time. But we know that the easiest way to calculate is to have the visually, the bigger the tree, then we know the density of the wood itself, But some trees, even though they are big, the wood actually is not dense, and the leaf is actually not that, how do you call it? Yeah, but it's actually not that wide enough to be able to store that carbon. So of course we cannot just see it with our own bare eyes, but it's the general concept is that if it's bigger, it has in terms of area that it uses to plant that trees and grow that trees, it will be able to sequester more emissions. But in reality, we have to look at each of the cases of the tree. Even with the same species planted in the same place, it may have different sequestration capacity. I'll give you an example of a small tree that sequesters a lot. I actually shown it already. White mangroves. For example, in northern Jakarta, Kepulauan Seribu, Thousand Island, it sequesters a lot of emissions just by a baby tree, which only basically $1 or $2 in cost for 2 years. It sequesters already 56 kilograms of carbon dioxide, and it's just a baby tree. So it's around 1.5 meters high, compared to, for example, a tree in Kalimantan Barat, which West Kalimantan, which is could be 3, 4, 5 meters high, and it can only sequester 90 kilograms of carbon dioxide, and it costs around 120,000 rupiah, which is around $8, right? So it depends a lot on the situation, and we have to look at the numbers in details if you want to get the, again, like I said, the most accurate number with the most information data that we need in calculating that calculating that sequestration from that tree. I hope that answers. Yeah, I mean, I wish we have time to draw some numbers in the whiteboard, but maybe we don't, and the situation, I mean, the online thing is kind of difficult to do that, but hopefully later we'll have more time.
Okay, thank you so much, Mananda. Mananda, is it possible? Oh, sorry, Wulan, are you there? Are you ready?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
Okay. Thank you so much for Mr. Nanda, and I have a question. I want to know your opinion. What do you think about the most and huge obstacle from this topic, from a carbon footprint, that what is the most huge and huge obstacle to reduce the carbon footprint in the level of individuals and the local community or even the government? Thank you.
At local community or at government level, you said?
individual, local community, and the government.
Okay. Okay, just your voice was okay. Okay, the most interesting obstacles, yeah. I don't think I can answer that with just one thing, but
Yeah, that's too broad to yeah.
that's broad.
Big
Yes,
question.
yes, and we can do all sorts of root cause analysis of the entire system of issues. But what I wanted to say is this relies a lot on our behavioral, and that's why in the development of this kind of solution, we use a lot of behavioral science approach. Like I mentioned before, we see the graph of number of innovators, early adopters, and so on, because people will have to go through a journey of understanding so that they are be able to do some climate action. So I don't think awareness about general environmental issues and how important trees are, I don't think awareness of that is lacking anymore in Indonesia. I mean, it's already in many places. People even know that Indonesia is the lung of the earth, with the Borneo and everything, even though we still have deforestation. The numbers is getting better actually during the recent 3 years, but we still have some deforestation. People know that it is important to maintain the tree and grow the tree. But the thing is, again, how to translate that awareness, that interest, that understanding into real action. Because people are very busy with their lives, with their work, with their school, everything, yeah? And people don't have time usually. People don't have, cannot spend attention and effort to be able to do those climate actions. So we believe that more people will need to be able to provide that opportunity, easier opportunity for everyone, so that it can be easily accessible for everyone. Again, some people would then say, okay, I want to do those climate action, but the trees around me are quite expensive, because trees in Indonesia are quite cheap, to be honest, relative to other countries. So maybe money or kind of economic incentives is also an issue, yes, but there are ways to plant a tree that is smaller, and we do, again, when you talk about climate change, even though you are in Indonesia, you can always plant a tree not in Indonesia if you are trying to address climate change, because it's happening globally, not locally. What's happening locally is only pollutant level, which is for example, land transport that we mentioned before. So there are ways to do that, and the issue is on the behavioral change journey, starting from awareness, interest, your understanding, your action, and even have to invite other people to do the same. Yeah, I hope that answers. Bulan,
Okay, thank you. Yeah, Bulan, hope that that addressed your question. Pak Nanda, if it is possible for the next 20 minutes, it will be interesting for us to try that WRI developed apps, this MEC. Is it possible, Pak Nanda?
Yeah. So thank you, Bu Melanie. So in the chat box is also people are also asking the ways to download this application. But Wulan, you're right. The application is for now, is only available in Google Play. But please look forward to the first quarter of next year. We'll have it in iOS. For now, we can try to use the the web version of it. Yeah, it's not as It's not as fun as the mobile version, but we can try to do that as well. Let me try to share my screen again. Wait. And yes, the issue is that for this one, we only have it in Indonesian language for now. We're still developing the English version of it, but let's see if we can still get something out of it. Yeah. So yeah, welcome to the zeroemission.id website, which is basically the website to help us count that your emissions and activity and how to manage that. So basically you can learn about the process of that application here, how to do it, and then pick your own trees if you want to plan it by yourself or at organizations, and what's the difference and so on and so forth. Learn how to use the application and everything, yeah? But let's go through the calculation first. Let me try to, and the idea is we need to sign in first. Oh, actually no, because I've already signed in. Let's say I'm driving a car, right? Yeah, so there are pedestrians, bikes, train, bus, minibus, car, and motorcycles. Let's say I'm picking a car, and we have this Google map here because it's going to determine the distance. So for example, I'm walking from, okay, which place do you want to go, Bu Melanie?
Okay, maybe from Bogor to Jakarta. That's really mainstream.
Okay, how about from IPB and then, right? Yes.
All right.
Yeah, so campus IPB, okay, with a car. And do you drive it by yourself, or do you use ojek online and shared vehicles?
Maybe private, yeah.
Private. Are you alone in that?
Yeah, alone.
You're
Yeah,
alone. So
maybe.
only one person, right? And the destination will be where in Jakarta, Bu Melanie?
Maybe to Bank of Indonesia in Tamrin.
Okay, Bank of Indonesia. Yeah, on Saturday, Bu. Okay. Bank. Is
Oh,
this
that's
right?
quite far.
Yeah, that's quite far. That's Gambir. Yes. Okay. Right. Yeah. So now with that, how often do you go, Bu? Let's say with just one trip, or
Yeah, maybe just one trip in a week, yeah, for
one?
a regular meeting, say it.
Yes. Okay. But how many period do you want to count it, within a month or a year, or just
Maybe within a month.
within a month? Okay.
Yeah.
So let's say you're going to with that trip on every Monday, which is Senin, for a month. Yeah. So that would be 4 times. So your total destination is 263 kilometers. Your CO2 emissions is almost 80 kilograms. Your sulfur dioxide is almost 7 grams, 10.7 carbon monoxide, half kilograms of nitrogen oxide, and just small 10 grams of PM 2.5. And this is like the percentage, because you're only having one type of vehicle, then yeah, the percentage is 100% for everything. But this is the numbers that you can see. Okay, this is how big my emission is, and it's only from one type of trip. Yeah, and it's not mentioning if you're going home or not, right? in this context, just from that one trip. It's
So
already that.
it's only for one trip, yeah. So we have
Yeah.
to cut to the 2 trips then, go and back.
Yeah. So if you want to do it, then you can just add more routes here. Let's say you're going back, right? Another car back to IPB, for example. So yeah, and then you're also alone. Destination is another IPB here. Then you'll have, the number will be way bigger, 160 kilograms of carbon dioxide, for example. And that's a month. If that's a year, then it's gonna be almost 2 tons of carbon dioxide. Yeah. So now you can imagine, right? With this, let's say just this 160 kilograms of carbon dioxide. And I mentioned before, mangroves, right? Mangroves can absorb around 50 kilograms per tree. Then with just this tree, in a month, you'll have to plant 3 mangrove trees to absorb your carbon dioxide. Yes. So, and that would be around $3, Bu Melanie. I'm kidding. Yeah, that's just an illustration. So yeah, that's how simple it is to kind of calculate it. And if it's a month, then it's gonna be way bigger than just three three trees. Yeah, so you can save the journey so that you can go back to it later if you don't want to sequester it now. But also in this website, I'm just quickly going through it. You can also learn how to reduce emissions. So in transportation world, there is avoid. So you're avoiding the trips. You're also shifting to a better transportation modes, and also improve it by maybe changing it to electric vehicles or cars with basically better fuel efficiency. And then the last step would be to sequester or serap in Indonesian language. And then yeah, the same logic with before, but you have to log in first. Yes, for to be able to, because this will lead you to your tracking system and numbers. Yeah. And then this Pantau, I think we are still in further development of it. Yes, we are still in further development. For the website version, it's still under developed, but for the mobile version, it's already fully developed. So this will show you the progress of your trees. When was it planted, or who planted it, where, what type of tree, how many trees, and how many emissions that is being sequestered by the total of your trees. So it's almost like an adoption scheme of trees as well, Bu Melanie. So you kind of own the trees.
Yeah.
And
It's
yes,
much better rather than adopt a pet, yeah.
well, I'm not saying that. I love pets as well, Bu Melanie, but yeah.
We can adopt both then, yeah.
We can adopt both, yes.
Yes.
And yeah, just this slide on more on the on this page, more on the blogs and scientific publication that we have, and and about pages. Yeah, that basically some. I hope that's enough for illustration, Bu Melanie.
Yeah, thank you so much, Pak Nanda. It will answer more curious in among the participants also. And Jacqueline want to ask you a question, Pak Nanda, Mas Nanda.
Sure.
Jacqueline, are you still there, Jacqueline? Jacqueline from Malaysia?
Yes. Hello.
Yeah, please.
Hello, Jacqueline.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Good day. I'm currently pursuing my PhD study in tropical forest wood density assessment for AGB estimation. So I would like to ask regarding because currently I'm doing the wood density, and as far as I'm concerned, wood density is one of the most debatable parameters apart from the tree DBH and the tree height. So, and then in addition, wood density is also need to be acquired through semi-destructive, non-destructive methods. So what do you think about this? Because right now my focus is actually on wood density in order to assess the forest AGB. Yeah, thank you.
Right. Yeah, thank you. True. We also spend quite some time debating this with our experts globally, and there is no one single best approach to calculate all the details on the AGB or wood density. And but from what you said, it's yes, especially the amount of data that are lacking in many countries, especially like in Indonesia. We have some, yeah, but it's still, there's still lots of room for improvement for good quality of data and amount of data. It will improve in the future. So I don't think at this stage I will be able to kind of say if what's the best way to do it or what's the second best way to do it. All of what we have done research is already out there in that document of technical note. It will be reviewed in the future, and we believe that someone like you would be able to also give us insights later and improve the emission and tree knowledge together, because this is a common effort. And the more people, the more feedback that we get, and the better science that we will be achieving, right? So we'll have to see. We're planning to do another round of expert review sometime next year. I think it's gonna be before mid-year. So we'll be more than happy to share with you again all the details later. So if you can probably drop your numbers or your emails so we can contact you further for more details, then that would be really helpful, Jacqueline.
Okay, sure. Thank you.
Yeah.
Looking
Thank
forward
you.
for it. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Jacqueline. How about the others? Do you guys still have a question? Or maybe Mahmoud? Mahmoud is in Nigeria, Mas Nanda.
Okay, that's quite far. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have a question, Mahmoud? No? No. Okay. How about you, Gautam Kumar? Gautam is from India, if I'm not wrong, right, Gautam? Do you have any question for Mas Nanda, Gautam?
Okay, so my observation is there any English version of the website?
Yeah. Yes, we are developing it now. We look forward to have that by the end of year, Mahmoud. Yeah, for now, what we have in English are our blogs and methods, of course, that I mentioned before. All the documents there are in English. The application itself is basically mostly targeted for Indonesian people, so that's why the basic language is Indonesian. But yes, we are looking forward to have that in English as a translation, so that at least the surrounding countries first can also experience it. Yeah, we'll let you know when it's ready.
Great, Mas Nanda. Maybe it's because it's for Indonesian context, yeah. The emission is Indonesian context because it's different from country to country.
Exactly, Bu. Yeah, exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
I can understand that. But but for for simulation that is always good. Yeah, to have this in English version. We are looking forward to it, Mas Nanda. Please let us know if it is already launched in this the end of the year.
Yeah, we'll do.
All right. Okay. Okay. I think we're running out of time. So it was really great session, Mas Nanda. We are so happy that we have you today. We have WRI today. Thank you so much. I believe that your session is beneficial for all of us. For me, as also lecturer in environmental economics, economic valuation, and also for all participants here who comes from different backgrounds. Yeah. All right. One participant asked if can we have your PPT slide maybe in a PDF form?
Yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah,
Then.
of course.
Okay, guys. So no. Yeah, don't worry. Pak Nanda will share the PPT for us. Yeah, maybe I will convert it to PDF form before distribute it to the participants. All right.
Yes.
Okay. Once again, Mas Nanda, thank you so much for your time joining us here today. And hopefully in the next summer course, we can still have you and you're still willing to join the summer course. We have this summer course on regular basis, Mas Nanda. So,
okay, every year.
at least once a year. At least once a year. Sometimes twice a year. All right.
I see. So hopefully the next time, hopefully the next time summer courses begin, then the application is already on the iPhone mode. It has already on English
version. Right.
Exactly, and it can already count the emissions from not only land transport, but also the other source of emissions. So we'll see. We'll see. Hopefully.
Yeah. Hopefully. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hopefully. Finger crossed for that.
Fingers crossed for that.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Mr. Nanda.
Oh yes, pleasure. Thank you. Thank you very much. Yes, I hope it's been useful. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you, Mas Nanda.
Yeah. Take care, everyone, and yeah, have a good weekend and the rest of the summer course, of course. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you.
Stay healthy.
All right. Bye bye.
Bye everyone. Take
Bye bye.
care.
Thank you. Okay, class. I have some before you leave this room, class. I need to discuss just a little bit about our closing ceremony. Okay, you know this is almost the end of lecture and practice session, right? We still have sessions tomorrow. There will be 3 sessions. One is the session from a young politician, young politician who is will be a great speaker. I know him because we went to the same university for our master's degree. Okay, and the other 2 is one is a young journalist from Jakarta Post. This is Indonesian newspaper, but with English language. Okay, and the other one is a young vlogger, young vlogger. So tomorrow we will have lecture about how to express our concern in environmental problems or environmental improvement in social media and media mainstream. Okay, so it will be interesting. So please come tomorrow. And then the last lecture will be on Monday. On Monday we will have virtual excursion. Okay, virtual excursion to the longest suspension bridge they said it is in Southeast Asia. It's located in West Java, Sukabumi. It will be also very interesting because we know that after 8 days, 9 days of summer course, you will need to refresh your mind. Okay, so Monday, the last day, we will have virtual excursion. Okay, that will be very, very interesting. And then after that, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, you will have independent session, but we will open this Zoom for 1 hour in a day. And that will be your opportunity to have to fill in the attendance form. Okay, so on Tuesday, Thursday, and Friday you will have 3 practice valued, 3 attendance, 3 practice attendance. Okay, and you can also consult or discuss with whoever the moderator on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. From 4 p.m. to 5 p.m. Okay, once 1 hour on that day. You fill in the attendance form as a practice attendance, but you also can discuss with the moderator or facilitator at those days. It will be Dr. Nufa on Tuesday, and on Wednesday and Thursday it will be Miss Fitri. Okay, you can ask about your task, your group task. So at that day, your task that is left is only the vlog. Okay, you can ask her, but the most important thing is you fill the attendance form still on Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Okay, you will have 3 practice attendance on that day. And the other thing, then after that, on Friday you will have to present your group task. Okay, the photo and the vlog. Okay, you will present it. All group will have to present. And then all group we will share together your photo and vlog. Okay, and then there will be judges, because it will be also competition. There will be judges. You will be marked on that day. Okay, and then after that, on Saturday we will have the closing ceremony day. It won't be at night. It will be at in the okay on Nigeria, Mahmoud. If we do it on at 1 p.m. in Jakarta, what about you in Nigeria? It will be what time? 1 p.m. in Jakarta?
Okay, it's 7 a.m.
7 a.m. Okay.
Yes, it's okay.
Is it okay for you, Mahmoud?
Yes, it's okay. It's okay.
All right. Okay. But tomorrow will be difficult for you, yeah, Mahmoud, because our session will start at 11 tomorrow, 11 a.m.
11 is 5 a.m. Just
Yeah,
almost 30 minutes to Subi prayer.
Oh, okay. But if you can't make it, it's all right. As in,
I can
can
join
still catch
immediately
up.
after Subi prayer. I can
After
join. I
subuh,
can
Masya
join.
Allah,
Yes.
Masya Allah,
Immediately I
Mahmud.
can join. Yes.
Masya Allah, I really
Yeah.
appreciate it. I really appreciate it.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And
Thank you very much.
about yeah, that is really good. How about the other participants? Is there any participant who come from time zone that's earlier from Nigeria?
I don't know.
Here I don't think so. Yeah, I don't think so. I'm
Yes.
not sure if from I think Masha from Germany. I'm not sure if if she still do this certificate scheme. So I think the timing for the summer course it will be okay, yeah, because insofar I just know that Mahmoud will be the earliest time zone for this summer course timing. Okay then. What will happen then? Okay, closing day. We will start about 1 p.m. Jakarta time. Yeah, on Saturday, next Saturday. Okay, next Saturday. And it was previously I planned the theme was the theme for the closing ceremony was Harry Potter because it's easy, yeah, just black, everybody has black, but then after I see a video from you guys, yeah, of our friend from Tanzania, Ramadhani, he sent me the video, the fun assignment video using traditional clothes. Okay, so I think it will be also quite interesting if we can do this closing ceremony in a cultural thingy. So you wear your traditional clothes. Yeah, I'm not sure, but so please, guys, this is a kind of survey. Please raise your what you want. You have two options here: Harry Potter theme or cultural theme for our closing. Okay, just because this closing is just for you participants. Okay, we want to do party. Okay. I want you guys, all of you, to be happy on that day, and then we just celebrate the good times, and then I want this summer course become more memorable for all of us, for me, and also for you, for the organizers also. Okay, so please just make your mind, and then please put whatever your option, yeah. Okay, in the WhatsApp group, yeah, or it will be better in the WhatsApp group. Okay, and then I will see which one will be the most option that preferred by the participants. Okay, but then one thing that is I ask you to do, yeah, is please make this hat for the graduation, yeah, the black hat. I don't know what is in English, yeah. Do you is there anyone knows what is in English this hat for graduation, the black hat? Yeah, but yeah, you know what I mean. Okay, please do me. Yes, pass my Saiful.
I think it's called mortarboard.
Sorry?
Mortarboard.
Mortarboard. Okay, something like that. Okay, but you know what I mean. Okay, so please do me a favor. please, each of you make one. Okay, make one. It's just from, you know, black carton or black cardboard. Okay, make one, because we want to do hats off, like as we graduate from this summer course. Okay, on the closing day. Okay, yeah, because you know what, I did my bachelor, my master degree, my PhD, but I never do that with hats off. Okay, so I want to do that with you guys. Okay, with this summer course participant, because we will graduate from the summer course next Saturday. So we want to do it happily, hats off. Yay, we graduate from the summer course. Okay, let's make it fun. Yeah, okay, so please do me a favor, make that yeah, just from carton or from black cardboard, anything. Okay, yeah, and prepare for that, or you have 1 week to prepare for that. Okay, and then please also just put your option on the WhatsApp group, and then we will also have some kind of Oscar nomination red carpet. Okay. So for the learning journal, best learning journal, best participant, best photo, best vlog, and then also best outfit. All right, best outfit. Is there, if somebody wants to be featured, okay, please send me a message on WhatsApp. Okay, personally to me, if you want to be featured on that day. We will have red carpet. Okay, red carpet like this Oscar red carpet, you know, before the announcement of the Oscar, there will be a red carpet for the celebrity. Yeah, in this closing day, you guys will be the celebrity. Okay, for anybody wants to be featured, I know, interviewed, like I will be kind of, you know, journalist to interview you guys. Okay, please personally message me on WhatsApp if you want to be featured on the red carpet. Okay, I will do that. Okay, yeah.